All right, we're back. This is my second time trying this. Went on live like 2 seconds ago and started telling the story, and apparently there was no sound. So now there's sound. I plugged my phone in so that it would charge, and it probably took the sound away, which is stupid. So, anyways, we're gonna get straight into this. So we're gonna be talking about some night fishing for bass, do's and don'ts. Basically, the story from last night, which was freaking ridiculous. We had a freaking awesome night. Me and Mr. Tightlines, Mr. Chris Ellis, my boy, the man, the myth, the legend. We finally got together for the first time since Ice Out, obviously, because, I've been in Minnesota all summer. What's up, guys? Quinn 760 Bass Fishing. What up? Anyways, so last night was freaking insane. And I'm going to talk about some things you should be doing when you're out night fishing. I'm going to talk about some things you should not be doing when you're out night fishing, and basically just don't do what we did and you'll be all set. And then do what we did and you're going to catch some fish. So anyways, last night Chris and I started off the night pretty early. We got there way before the sun was going down, and we were tossing some regular lures. I was throwing a Ned rig, a swim jig, and a little Chapo, whopper plopperish type deal. And we didn't get a sniff. He was throwing live bait, and he didn't get a sniff. And so, it seemed like it was going to be quite the grind, but we had faith that, the night bite would come too. Because in the summertime, a lot of the times I find, especially places with, that get pretty deep, I feel like the bass stay in the deeper water for most of the day. And a lot of the time when the sun goes down, they like to come up into the shallows where all those bait fish are that you see all over the shallows, and they fucking crush them. So when you go out, hit a place during the day and you don't have any luck, but you want to stay during the night, don't get discouraged. So that's one of your do's here, okay? And don'ts. Do not get discouraged if you get out there early and you don't get a bite before the sun goes down. Just keep grinding. Keep grinding, and it'll freaking pay off, as it did for us last night. And we had so many times where we should have just quit and gave up and gone home because we made a lot of mistakes. So the first thing that happened was that kind of got us, a little bit of a oomph. We got like a little bit of, we just got stoked, basically. Because right before the sun went down, Chris's live bait finally got hammered. And it was a huge fish. I didn't get to see it, but Chris said it was probably a 4+ smallmouth. It came off right at his boat. He actually almost missed it he missed it with the net, but it was like real close. Right after that, he started throwing his rat, and his rat got destroyed by a little dink largemouth. And that right there just told us, after the couple hours of not even a sniff, that this could possibly turn out to be a great night. So we continue down the line that we're working, and the first fail happened. So here's something you don't want to do. You don't want to throw your beautiful swim bait rod into the water. Isn't that right, Chris? You definitely don't want to do that. And sometimes things happen. I know a lot of the times when I'm out fishing, especially when I first got used to kayak fishing, sometimes you're just not fully paying attention to exactly what you're doing. And when it's dark out, you really got to pay attention to what you're doing, because a small mistake could turn into a big mistake very fast. And yesterday at the body of water that we were fishing, it's ultra clear water. So if the mistake that did happen was made during the day, we could have fixed it immediately. I could have dove down and fixed the mistake. But when Chris went to cast, his rat got snapped off, and somehow his $300+ swim bait rod and reel went plummeting into the depths of this beautiful lake. the sun had literally just started to like completely go away, and there was just not enough light for us to see where the rod was. I mean, I was shining my big flood lamp down into the water, but the reflection of the lamp on the top of the water was just completely ruining any chance we had of seeing this thing. And you know, we tossed literally everything we could have tossed down to the bottom and tried reeling up, you know, this deal, and it was tough. It was really sad. Like, we got totally discouraged. And you know, when you're out night fishing, you can't let things get to you. And that's the one thing Chris didn't do. He did not let the mistake get to him. As much as it pissed him off, as much as it, you know, made me like really sad. Like, both of us were like sick to our stomachs. Nobody ever wants to see their best buddy lose a freaking $300+ setup. So we just kind of like sat there and we tried to find it for a little bit, and then we moved on. But Chris really wanted to throw his rat, and all he had was, you know, a medium heavy, I believe it was, Chris, and 12-pound fluorocarbon line, throwing a 2.5-ounce bait, which you really shouldn't do. That is a don't for night fishing. You really want to be set up for success when you're out on the water, going for big fish with big baits at night. And that's a do for night fishing, right? When you're out night fishing, you want to be throwing big baits, noisy baits. It's almost like cheating, right? As some people would say. You know, it takes no skill, right? Wrong. Anyways, after it happened, we gathered our composure. Chris tied his rat back on, and immediately after he had caught that first dink, I put on the Bugha Bull Shad, because I felt like that was one of my best options for getting hit. It's my secret. If he was throwing the rat, I was going to throw the Bull Shad, and we're going to have a chance at, you know, different fish. And it really actually paid off towards the end of the night. Now, it's fun fishing with a buddy, but a lot of the times, you know, your buddy will just go ahead of you the whole time. If you're fishing with a buddy in kayaks, Chris and I had a great setup last night, and after every fish was caught, we leapfrogged each other. So that's something you can do when you're out on the water night fishing with your buddies. You know, don't just take the lead the whole time. Don't be an asshole. Let your buddy go in front of you after you catch a fish. And in doing so, we both ended up catching a bunch of fish, and some really good ones at that. So after that all happened, and we ended up catching quite a few fish, later in the evening, it was about 1 o'clock. The clouds were super dark. The rain was about to really start, and I ended up catching a pretty decent sized fish. And right after that fish was caught, I was trying to get my stuff together to take some photos and you know, like, document the fish. Now, here's another don't when you're out night fishing, especially in kayaks when you're in really you know, a small area. You really want to remain organized on your kayak or on your boat when you're out night fishing. You don't want to be stepping on hooks. You don't want to like be knocking stuff over, and you don't want to get all jacked up when you get a fish and do something stupid, which is what I did. And it wasn't that bad. Basically, what happened was I went to grab my net after the whole, you know, thing happened, and my beautiful flood lamp was sitting on top of the net, and I didn't know it because I was rushing, which you just shouldn't do, night fishing or not night fishing. Like, when you're handling fish and you're getting, you know, you're trying to document the situation, you shouldn't be rushing, because that's when you make mistakes. And I basically just knocked my really nice flood lamp that I use when taking night pictures right into the drink, and it went down about 16.5 feet to the bottom of the lake. And the best part about it was it remained on for about 20 minutes. It felt like it was like a movie. The whole bottom of the pond was like lit up in that entire area. It looked like the bottom of a pool. It was really cool. If it wasn't freezing cold last night, I probably would have dove down to get it. But I didn't, because I'm a pussy. Anyways, moving on from that, you know, we didn't let it get to us again. We still took some pictures. We laughed our asses off about it because it was just stupid and silly. And by that time, we had caught a bunch of fish and we were pumped up. So we moved on. Now, when you're night fishing, you really, like, one of the things I remember from when I first started was you really want to get your bait as close to shore as possible. I mean, not always. You're going to want to throw out into the deep too. You're going to want to kind of throw everywhere because you never know where these fish are going to be. They could be in a right next to a submerged boulder in, you know, 10 plus foot of water, and they come up out of that shit and they'll crush your bait. But you need to, when you are throwing toward shore, try and get it as close to the weed edge or as close to shore as possible before you start your retrieve. And at about 1 o'clock in the morning, Chris absolutely nailed that. And here's the thing about the leapfrogging that we were doing and tossing those two different baits. He had caught the last fish, and so I had moved in front of him, and I was tossing my bull shad along this weed edge, and he was behind me tossing the rat. Now, I tossed my bull shad right in the same area that he came up behind me, and he threw that rat, and it landed literally like directly on the weed line, right in front of where some water was coming in, some fresh water. On the slow, steady retrieve with the rat, about halfway from the weed line back to his kayak, a freaking enormous fish exploded on that thing, and he was in for the ride of the night. He landed it, and it was absolutely epic. I'm going to have the video coming up soon. I just wanted to come out today and kind of like go live because I haven't put up a video in 2 weeks. I've been traveling, and I was going to edit yesterday, and then Chris asked me to come out night fishing, and I was going to edit today, but we got bigger and better plans for today. Meaning we're going back up to where we were yesterday, and we're going to try and get Chris's rod and reel back. So that's pretty much what's going on today. I'm literally on my way up there right now. We got goggles. It is luckily 80 degrees out in freaking September, and the wind is not supposed to be super strong. The place we're going to that we were at yesterday has ultra clear water, so the plan is we're going to go right back to where his rod was. It's about 13 foot down, and I'm a pretty crazy swimmer, so I'm going to put some goggles on and get down in the water and see if we can't recover his rod and reel. Now, I brought with me my GoPro Session, which I rarely use, but this thing is fully waterproof, so it's going to come down in the water with me, and hopefully we recover that rod and reel and make for an epic end to this video that, you know, we're going to be doing about night fishing coming up soon. Now, it came to my attention, I want to say, 3 or 4 months ago, that some people think that just tossing out big baits and cranking them back at night is like cheating or doesn't take any skill. And that's coming from somebody that never night fishes. And when he does, he doesn't catch big fish. And he also doesn't ever toss big baits. So, you know, when you're naysaying something that you're not good at, and you're naysaying something that you see other people succeeding at, and you're like basically putting them down for something that they're good at and you're not good at, you're a fucking loser. And you need to kind of step back and look at you know, what you're doing and what you're saying and who you're talking shit about, because you're not good at something. Like, why don't you take a step back and be like, wow, like, these guys are catching big fish. I don't go out night fishing that much, and I never toss big baits, so maybe I should try that. Or I don't want to try that, and I think it might be really easy, but you know, maybe keep your mouth shut, because other people love it. And when you talk like that and you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you just sound dumb. So, you know, like, to say that night fishing doesn't take any skill is insane, because when I'm out there, I don't use a headlamp, because when I feel like when I'm using a headlamp, the fish know I'm there, and that seriously takes skill, because you can't see where you're casting. you have to like really focus and really know where you're at, and you need to pay attention to the weed edge. You need to pay attention to where the rocks are. The skill level is way higher than fishing during the day, because during the day you can see everything, especially in ultra clear water. You can look down and be like, oh, there's a boulder right there. At night, if you don't know the place well, you don't know where that stuff is. So you really gotta, be precise with where you're putting your baits. You need to be good at picking out which baits to use. It's not just some like I don't know. That's something that's really been bugging me. It's really been on my nerves. If you're not good at something and if you feel like some way about the way somebody else is fishing, you should probably keep your opinion to yourself, because, that other person that fishes that way loves it. And why bash other people for what they're doing? Like, I barely ever throw live bait, ever. Chris was throwing live bait last night. Did I get on his case? Did I tell him he's cheating? No, because he was having fun. First of all, he was catching the bait he was using, so that's dope. And that takes skill in and of itself. And then, he only got one hit on the damn thing. And he freaking sits there and he paddles backwards the whole time he's live bait fishing, and he's casting out for the live bait while fishing. And that must not take any skill though, right? Because it's live bait. That's the thing I'm talking about. Like, everybody has their different ways to fish. Everybody's into it. We're all fishing. We all share the same passion. So why put other people down for what they love to do? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. I know I'm ranting and this has nothing to do with night fishing, but I just figured I'd say it because it pisses me off. And I just want it out there. Like, why bash other people for what they love to do? It's what they love to do, and we're all in it to try and catch fish and have fun. That's what it's all about. You don't see me saying like, it takes no skill to throw drop shot at rocks in the deep when you have fucking side imaging, right? I mean, right? Like, if I had the thousands and $1,000s worth of electronics on my boat and I could do that, I'd be doing it too. Why? Because it's fun. And when I'm on boat with people that have those kind of electronics and we're doing that, like when I was out in Wisconsin with Kyle or out with Greg and using the side imaging and throwing freaking, drop shots and nab rigs at cribs and structure in the deep that I wouldn't even know was there. That was awesome. And it felt like a freaking video game. And it felt almost like I was cheating, because it seemed so easy when it's something that's so difficult for me because I have a kayak with no electronics on it. You know what I mean? Like, I would never give them shit for going out and spending thousands of dollars on these beautiful electronics to catch fish. Like, why would you do that? That's what they do. That's like what they chose to do. That's what they chose to spend their money on, so that they could go out and catch fish the way they want to catch them. I like catching fish at night on big baits. I like catching fish in the slot on frogs. Is that cheating? Does that not take any skill? I'll tell you what, throwing a freaking frog all day the way I like to throw a frog is, it's intense. But that's what I'm getting at, you know what I mean? Like, do you, worry about you, and whatever everyone else is doing, encourage them. Or keep your mouth shut if you got nothing good to say, because it's obnoxious when you're always naysaying. So anyways, some more things about night fishing. In a couple previous videos, my previous night fishing videos, I've talked a lot about sound and noise. Now, I know there's other ways to go out there and fish at night. You can use a chatterbait, you can use a spinnerbait. You want to use things that have vibration and have noise, because that's how the fish are going to key in on them at night, because they're not really seeing the baits unless it's the full moon, and then they can see them a little bit better. It's almost like a cloudy day for them. But when you're out there at night, in my personal opinion, you should be throwing top water And it's not for any other reason but the fact that it is the most fun you will have out there at night. Because when you're sitting there and it's silent and all you can hear is your bait just click-clacking about, and all of a sudden a giant fish comes breaching out of the water, I don't know about you if you've done it, but my heart literally jumps out of my chest, and I freaking love that feeling. If I get one bite early in the night, I'm literally good to go almost the entire evening. Like, I'm just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like, it's the biggest freaking adrenaline rush there is. Now, in choosing your baits, you really kind of want to be careful. You don't want to throw baits that your rod and reel can't handle. That being said, last night Chris did, and it paid off huge for him. But I know Chris isn't going to be doing that every because eventually it's going to take a toll on the rod and reel, and that's why there are those limits on your rod and limits on your reel as to the line that you should be using with it, the pound test you should be using with it, and the size of the lure you should be using with it. Now, if I'm going to go out night fishing, I want a rod that can handle a bait that's at least 2.5+ ounces, because a lot of the big baits that I have are in that range, and some of them are a little bit bigger. Right now, I broke my big swim bait rod, so I'm actually using my extra heavy frog rod, and it's working out great for me. It's a little under the weight level that I want to be at, so I really want to next season get another swim bait rod and upgrade back into that, so that I don't break my beautiful frog rod that Greg so kindly gave to me. That Fox River rod. Greg, you're the man. And, that's really something that you want to pay attention to. Now, when I'm out throwing big top water baits at night, I personally like to use 20-pound fluorocarbon line. I don't spend tons of money on it, though, because that fluorocarbon, I usually just use the Seaguar Red Label, and that's very inexpensive, and it works great. I barely ever backlash, and I love the stuff. You're going to want to pair your big baits with some heavy line. That being said, again, you can make exceptions. Say you're to go out one night this year and just give it a try night fishing. Go get yourself, a big rat, like Chris used last night, and go ahead and throw it on something more than that 12-pound test. He was a little crazy for doing that, and I'm sure if he had a rod and reel that had some stronger line, he definitely would have used that. But that's what he had, and he made do with it. So if that's what you got, you can do it. You just got to be a little extra careful. You don't want to overpower your cast, because you don't want to snap off and send your bait into a tree. But make sure you got yourself some pretty decent line. Get yourself a big bait and go out at night and give it the grind. And if you fall in love with it the way I did and the way Chris did, next season, during the winter, save up some money and get yourself a nice swim bait rod. You don't have to break the bank the first time you get one. There's, a bunch out there that are in the $100 range, sometimes a little bit less. And then get yourself a reel that can handle, that can hold a lot of line in 20-pound fluorocarbon or 20-pound mono. I actually went out to Joe's in Nashua and picked up an old Shimano casting for about $135. It's a lot of money, I know, but if you fell in love with night fishing, that $135 has brought me so many incredible fish. I've caught so many ridiculously awesome fish with that reel and that rod. And now, again, at night, if you're going to be out night fishing and using some of these big baits, the slower you retrieve, the better. So you want to go at a slow speed that basically, the slowest you can go where that bait is still working. So like the BBZ Rat that I started out throwing, that Colby and Tosty got me into big baits with, that thing can move pretty slow. So, when you buy your reel, you're going to want a reel that's kind of in that like 6-to-1 gear ratio, something that moves slow. And then, if you're going to go up to like a big whopper plopper or something like that, you're definitely going to want to do something that's a little bit faster. 7-to-1, 8-to-1, something like that. But you know, depending on the bait you're using and how slow you can move it, you're going to want a reel that can, you know, move nice and slow. Unless you're a slow enough person to be able to move a fast reel really slow, which I know some people that just have the patience to do that. Me, if there's a fast reel in my hand, I'm going to end up reeling it too fast. So the reel that I got was absolutely perfect for night fishing, and like I said, it's caught me so many incredible fish. I'm super happy with it. So I'm blabbing. I just wanted to get a video up, guys. I really wanted to just say hello to everybody. I want to thank all of you for, you know, being here and supporting me. These past 6 months, man, have been some of the toughest 6 months in my entire life. What's up, Jason? But you know what? I got people like you in my life that, you know, support me and, you know, reach out to me all the time, see how I'm doing. And it really means a ton to me to have friends like all of you guys, you know, there. And it's freaking amazing. I feel blessed. I got a lot of stuff going on right now. And, you know, we're trying to see the girls again. And hopefully that works out within the next few months. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on that. That fight has just begun, and we're not going to give up anytime soon. So we'll see how that all works out. Well, wish us luck tonight. I mean, me and Chris are going to go out tonight, and, you know, we're going to videotape the whole thing. We're going to try and get that gosh darn rod and reel back. Dude, I definitely plan on coming back to the Midwest. I don't know when. I don't know when, but it's friggin' happening. I fell in love with the Midwest, and I will definitely be making trips back there when I can. That place is absolutely amazing. Everybody out there was just so kind. People are amazing. Fishing was friggin' incredible. I absolutely love the Midwest. Now, next time I'm out there, I definitely need to do more night fishing. I barely night fished at all this year. So now that I'm back home and I know these bodies of water through and through, you know, we're going to be getting in as many night fishing days as humanly possible before the water gets too cold for this crap. Last year and the year before, we were night fishing all the way into late October, so we're definitely going to be doing it. This Friday is the harvest moon, so another due for night fishing, guys, is the moon cycle. I find that I get bites, the best bites, usually during the full moon phase and during the new moon phase. So either the full moon night, the day before, 2 days before the full moon, 2 days after the full moon, and same with the new moon. Those are usually the best nights. Now, last night we went out. It wasn't the most productive, like numbers-wise night I've ever had, but the fish were biting, and it's like right before the full moon phase starts. I believe it's starting tonight. Is tonight? What's tonight? Tonight's Wednesday, Thursday, right? Yeah. So tonight is that 2 days before the full moon. Now, after we go and hopefully get Chris's rod and reel back, we're going to be night fishing again. Because tonight is one of those nights where you want to be out there. If you guys are thinking about like, hey, oh, maybe I could go out tonight until like, you know, maybe be a little extra tired. Hello. So my favorite kind of places to night fish are places that aren't super weedy, have very clear water, and deep, like steep drop-offs from shore. Like some of the best fish I've caught at night is when I'm sitting in like 15 foot of water and I'm tossing up into like, you know, 2 to 4 foot and then coming back to my boat or kayak. And usually I get hit in between. Every once in a while, like last night, we got hit a couple times immediately as the bait falls to the water. Because those fish are moving up and smashing those bait fish that are pretty close to shore. So keep that in mind, folks. Go out and find a lake near you that has super clear water, boulders, if you will, not a ton of weeds. Now, that being said, I haven't really been out night fishing places that have a ton of weeds. That place that I fished a ton in Wisconsin, I bet that would be a blast to get out with some frogs and fish at night in all that heavy weed. Because I know my buddy Tosti was out last year and caught a 7-pounder, I believe, on a frog in a place that was literally just all weeds. And he's used to throwing big swim baits, but he couldn't throw them there. He was pissed. And he was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw a frog. And he landed what was then at the time his personal best bass. And then I think it was a little bit later on in that evening, I think it was the same evening if I remember correctly, his buddy caught an almost 10-pound bass. And that is in New Hampshire, folks. I don't know if you know, but New Hampshire, the state record is 10 pounds, 8 ounces. So that kid caught an almost state record fish at night on a frog in a place that was literally just all lily pads and weeds. So those places do work as well. But, you know, if you want to toss big swim baits, that's not going to work out. So you want to go to places that you can really get your bait as close to shore as possible without it getting caught up, you know, the trebles getting caught up in the weeds. And you want to work that bait as slow as you possibly can. Anyways, we're getting pretty close to where our destination is. My phone's probably going to die pretty soon. But I'm glad you guys, you know, tuned in. And hopefully you enjoy my stupid-ass ranting about. New to the channel, you should probably go back and watch my night fishing videos for night fishing expeditions in October. See how much good footage we can get, and then put together another like really cool how-to video on night fishing. But it's good to be back home. It's good to be back out in the water at night and get that confidence back that I had last year, because it just adds a whole nother element to fishing. Like literally, my favorite thing about it is that it takes away your sense of sight. So you're literally relying on your feel and your hearing. You know what I mean? Like your sight's gone. You can barely see a thing. And so really you're just sitting there listening for your bait. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You want to be able to hear your bait. So if the place you're fishing is really noisy, you want to be using a noisier bait. Last year, Chris and I were fishing one of my favorite spots. It was quiet, and the bass were hitting what I wanted them to hit, and then all of a sudden a crazy thunderstorm rolled in. Chris threw on his Savage Gear bat, which is ridiculously noisy. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen like the Clash, or not the Clash, what the friggin' am I trying to think of? The Joker, big frickin' swim bait. I know a couple of my buddies have one. Those two baits are noisy as hell. As soon as Chris started throwing that bat in like the super heavy rain and thunder, he was hammering fish, because at night these fish are keying in on the sound and the vibration of those big baits, and they come out of frickin' left field for him. It's the most fun you'll have. The most fun. And don't quit if by 10 o'clock you don't get a fish. I'm telling you right now. You could just not be hungry. It's the same thing as day fishing. They go through some periods of time where they move up, they hammer a bunch of fish, and then they're full. So, you know, you got to be in the right place at the right time. But if you grind, if you go out and you're there at least, like, say, until like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, you're going to catch fish. You're going to have a blast, and you'll thank me for it. So thanks for tuning in. I know I'm an idiot. I just wanted to come out and say what's up. And, you know, I'm driving. I'm going to be editing. I was going to edit today. I was going to edit yesterday, and I didn't because I'm a freaking dummy. Just kidding. I didn't edit yesterday because I was about to, and then Chris said, you know, come out night fishing. And I was going to edit today, but, you know, I have to go back and get Chris's freaking rod and reel, because that is way more important than me putting together a little video for you guys, because I can do that tomorrow or the next day. So I have freaking, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 days of trying to catch my first muskie, which, spoiler alert, I didn't get it, but it was a grind, and we got some really fun and funny footage. We did catch my personal best pike while trying to fish for a muskie, so that was freaking dope. After that, we went bass fishing with TK. If you guys don't know TK, you're silly. He's one of my best buds. I've known him since I started my channel. He's been supporting the channel, and I support his as well. And TK's the freaking man. And area frog bite, because anyone knows TK, they know he's going to be throwing a freaking frog pretty much all day, even if you shouldn't be throwing a frog. And we found the bite. And then we did a little challenge video. I think I'm supposed to be going this way. Am I going the right way? Yes. Anyways, we did a little challenge video because the guys from Trapper Tackle said they were going to send me some Trapper Tackle stuff, and I literally thought they were going to send me a box of hooks because I thought that's all Trapper Tackle was, but apparently they're not anymore. They have like a spinner bait, there was a Ned rig, there was a freaking blade bait, there was like a little inline spinner, worms, there was